Welcome to the CLG podcast. This is the first episode of many. I am Luke Stock. I am an aspiring filmmaker who made this podcast to hopefully connect with more filmmakers. And today I have Tom Watt, a actor and filmmaker. So Tom, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Luke, first of all, just congratulations on getting this this podcast up and running. I wish you every success with it. It would be great if it became a sort of meeting place for like-minded people and, potential partners and collaborators with you. It's a really good idea, and I really do wish you well with it. It's a great idea. So as you say, Luke, well, it's a while since I've done much acting, but my background is in acting, but more recently I've been focusing on writing books and making documentary films.
All right. When some of your books come out, you got to give me them. I'm gonna have a little read.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Well, we'll sort out. I mean, they're all out. They're all on Amazon,
oh, lovely
and
stuff.
they're there, and also on a very good website, which I don't know if people know about, called World of Books, where
Ah,
you can
yeah.
get kind of, secondhand copies, because some of them now are did really well, sold out, didn't get another print run, and so they're out of print now. But you can still find them on World of Books, and I'm sure one or two other places as well.
Yeah. So, would you tell me about your acting career? Like, where did it start?
Well, it was just one of those things, Luke. I mean, I guess like you've known for a long time now that what you want to do is make films, right? That's been
Yeah.
your kind of, I know from having met you, that's your sort of driving, that's your ambition, that's what gets you up in the morning, that's your drive. And when I was younger, um, acting was all I wanted to do when I was at school and stuff. And I used to, be in school plays. I used to go on kind of drama courses when I could. There was an organisation called the British Drama League, which I don't even know if it exists anymore, but they used to run very affordable kind of drama courses over school holidays. And I just kind of, it's what I wanted to do. I ended up when I finished school, I went to university. I did a degree in drama up at Manchester University, and kind of started work as an actor really while I was still at college. I was doing stuff at college, but also outside college, and got an equity card back in the day when you needed to be a member of the union to be able to work professionally. And then after university, I started my own small scale touring theatre company that I wrote and directed for, as well as eventually doing some acting for. Initially, I just directed and wrote, but and then just decided to just freelance as an actor, and that kind of kicked off fairly quickly. And I ended up being cast in EastEnders when it first started for the BBC, and did the first 3 years of EastEnders, and kind of moved on from there really, and had I guess sort of, I don't know, maybe 10 years, something like that, 10, 15 years of acting was all I did really. But I've always loved football, Luke, and while I was in EastEnders, I started playing. We started a charity team, and I started playing, and I was always watching a lot of football and got to know a lot of people in football, and just got kind of fascinated. Had an idea for a book, and that kind of kicked off a whole separate life, really. Where I was writing about football, but also broadcasting a lot for the BBC and for Talk Sport about football, and so kind of you follow your path, don't you? And so, despite the fact that I'd always wanted to be an actor, and I still love acting, don't get me wrong, but books and films, you can kind of, you're more in control. You can make things happen. Whereas obviously with acting, you're just waiting for directors like you to give you a call and offer you work, or ask you in for an audition. So I guess I just wanted to be the, I just like being a little more in control of what was going to happen next, and I loved it. I just loved the world of football, and loved writing about it, loved broadcasting about it, and more recently, I've loved making films about it. So Yeah, it's that's just how it's developed over the years.
Sorry, that's awesome, Tom. Would you tell me what character you played in EastEnders? Because I know that you were quite popular back in the day when you were in EastEnders because it had a lot of you.
Well, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there, Luke.
Oh, no, that's fine.
It was look. I mean, it wasn't me personally that was popular. It was obviously the character I was playing that was popular. You got to remember, you've got to go back to now. This would be the mid 80s, mid 1980s, so a long time ago, kind of 40, 45 years ago. And this was a completely different world. It was entirely linear television. Streaming was it hadn't even been thought of. Never mind put into practice. So you had your kind of four terrestrial channels: BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4, and that was it. And linear television kind of ruled the world, really. And it meant that something like a soap opera, particularly a kind of new thing like EastEnders was, could be a kind of what would you say, like a kind of destination. If you wanted to watch it, well, you could record it on VHS, but really, if you wanted to watch it, then you needed to sit down at 7:30 on a Tuesday and a Thursday and watch it, and then you could catch up. They used to do an omnibus edition on a Sunday, and that meant that there were huge audiences for it, Luke. You know, now I guess there's kind of 25 million people watch a World Cup final, or 25 million people might watch, I don't know, the Queen's funeral. But 25 million people were watching EastEnders every week because it was the thing. It became quite fashionable. I guess now you would say it was trending. And, you got all of those people who were interested and wanted to watch it. You couldn't kind of watch it on catch up. You couldn't stream it. You had to be there at 7:30 on a Tuesday or 7:30 on a Thursday and sit down to watch it. So it was a kind of there was an audience. It was possible for TV shows to reach in a way that and for drama to reach in a way that it just doesn't, that it can't anymore. That people access content in completely different ways now that they're streaming and what have you. And obviously, the way linear broadcasters have adapted to streaming, they're streaming themselves, but also what they create, the content they create is different. So it was kind of right time, right place, really. The character I played was Lofty. There were lots of big characters. Lofty was a great character to play, had really kind of strong dramatic storylines, but was also one of the comic characters. So it was really fun to play. And it just was the time, it was a brand new show, which kind of moved soap opera on, really, in many ways. And just it caught fire, particularly for those first, as I say, I was in it for the first 3 years. And I guess you could say maybe for the first 5 or 10 years, it was a big thing. But really, the audiences that we were getting years 2 and 3 when I was in it were just stupid. I mean, just
Yeah.
massive.
I suppose nothing. I suppose people had nothing really to do than watch their favorite TV show.
Well, I think people had things to do, but it was that if you wanted to sit down and watch television, like I say, because it was a different era in television, and it was, as I say, it was the only thing was linear broadcasting. Then there was, if you wanted to watch TV, then you all did it at the same time in the same place. A whole country. I remember there was another very good soap opera at the same time that had started before EastEnders called Brookside. And I remember somebody writing in a newspaper one time that the only thing that was unrealistic about Brookside was that nobody talked about what was happening in EastEnders.
Yeah.
It's that sort of, it just was a national conversation for a brief spell.
So obviously, you played Lofty in EastEnders, and you did it for 3 years. So, what did
Yeah.
you think of him as a character, like as a person?
Oh, I admired Lofty massively. I thought that you know, I thought Lofty kind of set standards of sort of uh, honesty, openness, integrity, um, willingness, um, that that I aspire to. I think that it was it was a character I had great admiration for. And the only time I ever kind of kicked back against the writing was obviously he was a comic character as well, and kind of did things in a slightly, I think, saw the world and thought about things in a different way to most of the other characters in the show. And obviously there was that enabled quite a lot of very good comic writing, and but there were times when I thought, hang on, you're just kind of, that he was being presented as a kind of figure of fun. Um, and I always kick back against that. But if you look at the strength of the dramatic storylines that he had, I think that by and large that wasn't the case. He wasn't treated as a figure of fun because there were some really very powerful storylines, um, very powerful storylines, which I think, I just think it was um, he was a character that saw things differently, thought about the world differently, experienced the world maybe in a different way. And you could say he was perhaps naive, um, but as I say, he had qualities that I admired greatly.
So, with EastEnders and everything, and you playing a part in it, did it give you any opportunities at all to be in something, bigger than EastEnders?
No, not bigger than EastEnders, because to be perfectly honest, you will never see a show. Seriously, I can tell you this fact: you will never see a show on a a drama. Look, you get huge. You will sometimes get huge audiences for live events. So
Yeah,
you know, Olympic Games, 100-meter finals, FA Cup finals, World Cup finals, uh, affairs of state. You know what I mean? Kind of coronations, deaths, funerals, that kind of thing. But those are things that are happening at a particular time in real time, and they are captured live. And those will attract big audiences. In terms of audiences for drama, you will never see anything like EastEnders ever again. It will never happen. Simply not because EastEnders was so great. Don't get me wrong. It's not because EastEnders, I like to think it was a good show, but it wasn't that it was so great. It was, as I was saying before, it was because of the landscape, the media landscape, and the dominance of linear TV. So it would never, it didn't offer me opportunities for anything bigger, um, but it did offer me a lot of opportunities for other work, as an actor. So, being in kind of a lot of theatre. I always love theatre. Theatre is my favourite thing to do because it's live. I did a lot of theatre, West End touring and stuff like that. Um, and also, episodes in other TV series, a couple of feature films, that kind of thing. And then I guess you know, I guess I could have kind of pursued that route, but then other things sort of took over in my life. Do you know what I mean? It was,
yeah.
yeah. So, but I think that almost all the opportunities, both as an actor, that would be obvious that I would get other opportunities because people had seen me work on EastEnders. But really, opportunities as a writer came because of EastEnders, because people went, oh, hang on, I know that guy, I know that name, and perhaps I got a chance where otherwise I wouldn't have done. Even though I like to think that the ideas that I had were good, and that um, the work that I did in print or as a broadcaster was good. I like to think that's for other people to judge. But I'm honest enough to recognise that probably I wouldn't have got the opportunity in the first place if I hadn't been in EastEnders. If people
I
hadn't known the work I did as Lofty in EastEnders.
yeah, I feel like in the 80s, I feel like TV was absolutely booming in the 80s. I mean, you had such amazing shows, such as EastEnders, Only Fools and Horses, and
Yeah,
lots of
yeah,
different stuff in different countries as well. I mean, America, especially. I mean, I feel like I watch old reruns of stuff from the 80s sometimes. Some of them are just absolutely laughable because they aged terribly nowadays.
yeah,
But they're good fun to watch as like a little
yeah. What what
child
would
with
what
your dad or
what
something
would
like
you
that.
say was your favourite, Luke? Have you got favourites
What
in US shows particularly?
oh well, I'd have to say there used to be like Marvel shows
Oh, okay,
back in the 80s, and I feel like The Incredible Hulk was the best one for me
right.
because I feel like it still ages well despite being like 45 years old,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the building of the characters and everything, especially in the first episode. The first episode is absolutely legendary to me. I can watch that
yeah.
any time, no complaints at
Great.
all.
Yeah,
But I feel like yeah, that's the best show for me, and Only Fools and Horses as well because that's on quite frequently still. That's
yeah,
still
yeah.
on like TV channels nowadays because of how
Absolutely,
popular it was.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I feel like with streaming services and everything, TV is still booming, but not in the way that people like. You know what I mean? I mean, there are these shows that you can just watch anytime, anywhere,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
anything, and then you go to it, and then you think this is really good or really rubbish. And
mm,
I don't really like how you have to pay for such streaming services when you can just watch telly and not
yeah,
when you can just pay like 30 quid a month for streaming services. It's just that's why I still
yeah,
collect DVDs and Blu-rays because I don't really use streaming much, but I use it when I have to. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you feel because it's really interesting to hear you say that, Luke, because I find obviously there is look when I was really young, Luke. This is going back to like the 1960s. I had a lot of family in America, and in the summer holidays, we used to go to the US for summer holidays, and you'd get there, and the television landscape was completely different even then in the US. There were just what seemed to me like hundreds of TV channels, hundreds of TV channels.
When there was only like three.
Well, here there were three then. No,
Yeah,
in fact, in the 60s, there were only two, BBC and ITV. That was it. There wasn't even BBC Two then. Do you know what I mean?
not until
And
1964, I believe.
yeah, exactly. So you'd go to America and think, wow, look at all these channels. But then you start looking for something that you wanted to watch. Couldn't find it. So there was this kind of, I don't know, everything seemed to get kind of leveled out and what have you. And I can still remember the one show that sticks in my head from the only show in all those kind of times I spent in America in the early 60s and later in the 60s as well. The only show that I can remember that we used to kind of sit down as a family and go, oh, we've got to see this. This is just great. Was the original episodes of Star Trek. That's it. That's it. And now I have a similar feeling that if I've got my kind of channel guide in front of me, and I'm clicking through that, Luke, and I'm going, there's nothing here for me. Now,
Exactly.
look, I know I'm not the target audience, but everybody's like chasing viewers your age on television, which is crazy to do because I don't, increasingly I think young people don't particularly access content and entertainment through television at all. It's when you've got phones and tablets and you can access and a lot of short form. content, then that's the way forward. But anyway, that's by the by. But I look, and there are certain things that I recognise that I feel people have really lost their way. Where even I don't know if have you watched The Penguin
I
with
haven't
Colin
yet,
Farrell?
but it's on my list of things.
Okay, so there are things about that are fantastic. The acting's fantastic. The kind of the world that's been imagined is very compelling and stuff. But it's like eight episodes. You
Exactly.
go, why is this 8 episodes? 1 hours. One, I ain't committing to anything over 8 episodes. I'm not committing to 8 episodes of anything, even something that I really admire. And I'm watching, and it happens so much with television now. I'm watching, I'm going, this could be 50% shorter. That people kind of drag stories out. They go, oh, we've got a good story here. And, you're a filmmaker, you might have an idea for a film. You've got an idea for a film that would really work 75, 80 minutes, great story, great characters, good subject matter, the issues raised, interesting issues and stuff like that. And you kind of go, and people take an idea like that and they turn it into a 10 episode series. Now, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And so there are, like I say, I think The Penguin is real, absolute quality. I can't remember what it's on. Is it Netflix or,
I think
it's a
it's on
streaming
like
platform?
Sky and stuff like that,
Yeah,
is it?
maybe it is Sky Atlantic or something. But I'm watching it, and individual episodes, I'm going, you've just padded this out to fill an hour. You've literally padded this out. You have taken half an hour to tell me to move the narrative on by 5 minutes. And that seems to me to be something really I look at movies. I'll be honest with you, Luke. I look now at movie running times. Anything over 2 hours, I go, that's not for me. Because I know it will be padded. If you can't tell a great story, in a movie, for me, look, there are always exceptions that prove the rule, but by and large, if you can't tell me a great story in film in 90 to 100 minutes, then I'm not sure it's such a great story.
Yeah, I do feel like films at the minute are kind of lacking in terms of story and basically just lacking in interesting things. I watched the new Joker movie and I felt like that was just the same thing for 2 hours straight with a rubbish ending, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
But I feel like with some films, you do go to the cinema and think that was actually really good. I had those rare instances these past couple of years because over the past couple of
absolutely.
years, over the past couple of years, I feel like films have been quite lacking. But I remember seeing a film in the cinema about a year ago. It's based off a racing game, and I thought, oh, how are they going to make something out of that? And
Hmm.
the funny thing is, they actually did, and it was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good story and everything, and it blew me away. It was an
Great. How long
amazing.
did it run?
How long did
How
it
how
run?
long was its running time?
Hang on, I have it on Blu-ray. I will tell you.
All right, very good. I'd be really interested because it's well,
Yeah, I can't
Luke, you're
find it at the
great.
minute, but
No, don't worry, don't
yeah,
worry. It's
I'm
just
I'm
that
sure it was
that point.
like
But
an hour
no,
or
don't get
so.
me wrong. I think there are great movies being made. There are
Yeah,
great movies being made, and of course, there's Blu-ray and channels that show nothing but great movies. But I just feel like, for me, it's a personal thing, I guess. But it's like you've got something really good. You've got a really good story. You've got really good characters. Why do you have to pad it out like that? It's like with soap operas. When we were doing EastEnders, 2.5 hours each week and a 1 hour omnibus, and that gave, that's not a huge commitment of your time, and that's not, you could afford to go, okay, I'm going to take those half hour on a Tuesday, half hour on a Thursday. And it's now soap operas are on 4 times a week. And sometimes they run to an hour. And I go, why? Why are you doing that? And the weird thing is, because I feel like with with soap operas, but with cinema too, but and television in general, whether that's linear or streaming or whatever it is, I think that people have this idea that all that matters is like what they want to do. And actually, what makes something really work and make something really popular, the reason that 25 million people used to watch episodes of EastEnders was not because of the episodes themselves. It was because people loved to talk about the episode afterwards and then look forward to what was going to happen in the one after that. It's people that make shows popular. You can't sit there in Hollywood or in Soho or wherever it is and go, I know exactly what people are going to love and I'm going to make them love it. You can't do that. You have to respect your audience and allow them to decide. And I just feel like, spreading things over 10 episodes and, all of that, and films running to 2.5 and 3 hours, that's just indulgence for me. I really don't kind
I
of connect with it.
absolutely I absolutely
Yeah.
agree with you, Tom, there. I feel like with most things nowadays, even YouTube videos, people just like widen their videos out. But I feel like it's all just for money and recognition and fame and everything. Like,
Yeah, but it's also kind of people maybe indulging themselves a bit. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Oh, I'm really good here. Where I feel like my approach, both to making films, but also to writing books, to almost anything I do, I'll do it, and then I'll go, how can I make this 25% shorter? How can I compress? How can I get? How can I just make sure that every single thing, every word in a book, every frame in a film actually counts, actually moves the story on. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
There's so much where you're just kind of in books, in films, in TV series, where I feel like this isn't moving us on. This is just, and I guess it's because, well, look, it probably becomes cheaper that, the more you can wring out of something, the cheaper it becomes per minute to make. But there's just something that I wonder why that is that and there've always been films um that were too long. And then there are films that are too long that you go, oh, okay, that's not too long. That's just brilliant. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But that film needed, I don't know, Ben Hur, or The Greatest Story Ever Told, or How the West Was Won, or whatever it is. Those old kind of blockbuster movies, and more recent ones as well, where you go, no, actually, I can accept that story needed 2.5 hours. But by and large, I just look and I just wish, I keep thinking, can't you strip some of that out? Can't you get rid of some of that and make what you've got more powerful, more concise? Yeah. So but that's probably just an old guy who hasn't got a load of time to waste watching stuff he doesn't really like.
yeah. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Omnibus was like broadcasted live. You would act it out all live on set. Um,
What with EastEnders?
yeah, with any soap drama, really.
Um, well, when we were doing it, we only did 2 episodes a week, so 2 half-hour episodes. So we got time to rehearse and stuff. And so obviously generally speaking, we'd spend about 2 days recording 2 episodes in the studio, so a half hour per day. And then on a Friday, we'd do the outside stuff. And that, look, sometimes things were recorded live. Because we'd run out of time and you only get one take. but generally speaking, you could have more than one go. So they weren't live. They weren't like, you see, I remember having done like sitcoms and stuff where it was recorded in front of an audience, a live audience, and it was literally like doing a show. You were doing the show live. It was recorded, and then it was put out, and it was in front of a live audience and stuff. So, but soap operas didn't tend to be. But now, because they're having to do so much, they're having to create maybe 2 hours of content a week, where we were only having to create an hour of content. Then I would guess that a lot of that is almost live. It has the feel of live. No time to rehearse. Do you know what I mean? Very little time to rehearse. You just get out there. You read your script, you learn your lines, get out there and do it. So it probably is more. It probably feels more live now than it did when we were doing it.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So, unfortunately, we are running out of time here. So, I will ask you one more question before
Yeah.
we set off this episode today. So with television now and EastEnders and all the dramas and everything, where do you
Yeah.
think it is at now?
Um, well, like I say, the change from linear broadcasting to streaming is just a huge. It's still having a huge impact. The impact of short form content on social media and stuff is also, the audience is diversified in a way that it just wasn't 30, 40, 50 years ago. So you're talking about a very kind of, yeah, diverse and individual, atomized, I think is the word, uh, an audience that is very disparate. And so, I think that's really the biggest difference. And, I think we're still finding our way with that. Um, so there's great work being produced. I think there's an awful lot of rubbish being produced. There are great actors, directors, writers working in television and obviously and beyond. But then there's also a lot of time getting wasted, and um, I feel as if it's harder to get very original content made. It tends to be there's an idea and that idea is current and everybody's trying to do that idea, if you know what I mean, rather than having fresh ideas. So, but it's an interesting time. It's always an interesting time. Look, I'll be perfectly honest with you. From my experience of television now, which is probably what you're getting at, is I don't really care what I watch now.
Yeah,
The most important thing for me is if I'm watching TV as opposed to content on my phone or whatever. What I really like doing, and this is true of the cinema as well, what I really like doing, I like being with my family in the same room, watching the same thing together, which is actually how television used to be consumed. And I still really like doing that. So if my son or my wife has got something they want to watch, I'll go, that's fine. I'll just sit in the room with you, even if it's not my cup of tea. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, that's where I am with TV right now.
Yeah, I mean, me and my family, we watch many of things, especially during Christmas. I'm guessing we'll watch a lot this year because there's so much good things coming on Christmas Day this year. The new Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey
Okay,
and everything. So I feel
great.
like that will get a lot of viewers in. But also just in general, like me and my family, my mum, uh, we um we just go downstairs. I put something on, put like a DVD on like a comedy or something. We love a bit of
Yeah,
a
yeah,
comedy, like like 2000s comedy, like In Betweeners and all that jazz. Where we just stick that on,
yeah.
and have a good laugh. And
No, absolutely, and it's a shared experience, Luke.
yeah,
So much of our lives is we're on our own with the phone or with the PC or with work or whatever it is, and
yeah,
those shared experiences, whether that's television or watching football or going to the movies or going out to eat together or just sitting eating together, I think those I treasure. I value those experiences, those shared experiences with family or with friends, even more than I ever did before, because it's you kind of have to make the effort because there's so much that is just directed at you as an individual. So many experiences are individual, that those shared experiences are even more kind of enjoyable for me. So, like I say, I don't really care what's on the telly. If I can watch it with my family, I'm happy. And it's the being with my family, like you say. You could put on a comedy DVD. The two of you could sit there. It might not even be all that good, but it's a really good hour or 2 hours or whatever it is, because you're in company of people you care about and you share. You talk about what's going on. And just being together.
Yeah, I mean, it
It's
can
really
still be a
important to me.
laugh. It can still be a laugh with your family. Like, if you don't personally like a show or a person in the show very much, you can still laugh and like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mickey out the show
Absolutely,
or anything like that.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, thank you for joining me today, Tom, and thank you for watching the first episode of the CLG podcast. And more episodes will be out soon.
Yeah, subscribe. Good luck with it, Luke.
Thank you very much.